At this time, I would, without yielding the floor, like to entertain a question from the senator from Florida.
Mr. President. Thank you. First of all, let me congratulate the junior senator from Texas on a fantastic question. In that question, he used Shakespeare references. He used a reference to the movie Patton, one of the great movies. I didn't bring my Shakespeare book, so let me just begin by quoting a modern-day poet. His name is Wiz Khalifa. He has a song called "Work Hard, Play Hard." It's the name of how it started. I think, if you look at the time, I think it's a time when many of our colleagues expected to be home, back in the home state, playing hard. But I'm happy that we're here, still working hard on this issue. It's actually really stunning. If you watch from home, if you hear the audience of people watching on the news or whatever, what's going on here, because I think it's important to explain what exactly is happening here. What's happening here is pretty straightforward. The senator from Kentucky has asked the question of the administration. It's a pretty straightforward question. Is it constitutional for the federal government to kill a non-combatant U.S. citizen in the United States? And we all have strong feelings about that program. We all have strong feelings about the war on terror. These are all legitimate issues. But this is a very direct question that's been asked. And what would have resolved this hours ago, from my understanding, and if I'm incorrect, the senator from Kentucky will correct me in a moment, my understanding is he has offered two ways to bring this to a resolution. One is just a statement from the White House, a clear, unequivocal statement that says, of course it's unconstitutional, that's not going to happen, unconstitutional, just a straightforward statement of that magnitude. In fact, I've been watching on television over the last few hours. I saw the senator from Kentucky say they've reached out to the White House. They've been unable to get any sort of direct response. Maybe that's changed in the interim. I don't know. We'll hear from him in a moment. The other is, and I heard he made a motion to have a resolution heard here that made it clear that that was the sense of this body. That the sense of this body would be that this is unconstitutional. Again, pretty straightforward. I'm not sure even those among us who are, let's just say those among us who believe that this program is necessary and important and so forth and so on, I don't know anybody in this body who believes that a non-combatant U.S. citizen in the United States, not doing anything of imminent danger, should somehow be killed by the U.S. government. I mean, nor do people home believe that either. So there was a sense of the Senate that this is the case, and in exchange for that vote, of course, the vote on Mr. Brennan would move forward, and that's been rejected. This doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I actually go to a movie, one of the great American movies, The Godfather. There's a quote in that movie. I don't have the Patton quotes, but I have the Godfather quotes. This is one of the best-known ones. He says, I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse. To me, these are offers you can't refuse. Straightforward offers you can't refuse, and yet they've been refused. And I think that's pretty stunning. The third thing I want to say is, I want you to imagine what this conversation would be like tonight if the president was George W. Bush, and if this issue was about George W. Bush. Just imagine that for a moment now. If he had been asked this direct question and had refused to answer, what this chamber would look like tonight, what the arguments being made would be like tonight. Just imagine that for a moment. That takes me back to another modern-day poet by the name of Jay-Z, and one of his songs he wrote, "It's funny what 7 days can change. It was all good just a week ago." Well, I don't know if it was all good a week ago, but I can tell you that things have really changed. Because if the president was George W. Bush and this was a question being asked of him and his response was the silence we've gotten, we'd have a very different scenario here tonight, except that I actually believe the senator from Kentucky would be on the floor making the exact same arguments he's making. I want everybody that's watching to clearly understand, and if I'm wrong, the senator from Kentucky is going to correct me here in a moment, what he's asking is just a simple, straightforward response. Or, if we can't get that, a simple and straightforward response from the members of this body in a sense of the Senate resolution. Both have been rejected. Now, the last observation that I would have tonight is that there have been some pretty phenomenal legal analysis done here on the floor. That reminds me of the most famous quote from The Godfather that was never actually used in the movie. I don't know how that happened. Maybe they cut it out. Here's the quote. "A lawyer with his briefcase can steal more than 100 men with guns." Can steal. I don't know how that's relevant to this, but I thought it was a really good quote, and I thought I'd bring it up because I went to law school. I'm a lawyer. I was a land use and zoning attorney, which meant if I wound up in the courtroom, something went horribly wrong with a land use and zoning application. But the point is, we've had some very good legal arguments here tonight on the constitutional issues with regards to this. And I think those are important to discuss, and I'm glad that much time has been spent on those. And it's important for the people at home to fully understand what the legal arguments are here, because they are important. They go to the heart of our Constitution. They go to the heart of our civil liberties. They go to the heart of the things that distinguish our nation. But I think what's really stunning to me, clearly the constitutional issue is important, is how simple and straightforward how this issue is and how easily it could have been resolved. And I don't know how many hours we're into this now, but it looks like I think it's about 11 hours and 15 minutes. About 11 and a half right now. Because we can't get a straightforward answer. And the members of this body deserve that. The members of this body deserve an answer. It doesn't matter what party you're in. It doesn't matter what party the president's in. This is a legitimate question that's being asked. And all this could be over if we could just get a straightforward answer. And I think that's something every member of this body should care about. It's not a Republican question, not a conservative question. It's a constitutional question, a relevant question, one that should be easy to answer. And the idea that they're refusing to answer it for some reason, I don't know if it's pride or because they think it's beneath them or they've got something else going on or maybe it snowed too much today and the answer department was shut down. Either way, I just don't understand how they can't answer this very straightforward question. It reminds me of another line from The Godfather when Michael turns to Fredo and says, "Fredo, you're my older brother and I love you, but don't ever take sides with anyone against the family again." Well, that is kind of what's happening here. As an institution, as the Senate, we deserve to have rights to these answers. It doesn't matter who the president is. We have a job to do that we're held responsible for, that we're held accountable for. You know, 30 years from now, 40 years from now, 20 years from now, 10 years from now, these sorts of decisions will have ramifications. Long after any of us here are gone, all of us here are gone, there'll be other people in these chairs. And maybe it's our children or our grandchildren or our great-grandchildren will visit this building and they will read about the time that we served here. And if we are making mistakes, history will record those mistakes and hold us accountable for those mistakes. If things are happening today that set the groundwork for things in the future, because that's the other thing we need to remember. No matter how you feel about the current president, he's not going to be president forever. But the precedents he sets could very well guide what future presidents do. And so the point is that if we are laying the groundwork here today, making mistakes by not asking certain questions, history will hold us accountable for that. And that's all of us, not one of us, not five of us, not the Republican part of the Senate, all of us. We have a right to ask these questions and to get these questions answered. That's not being obstructionist. That's not being partisan. That's being a senator. And I'll tell you, I've only been here 2 years, but I know enough of this process already to know that every single one of us, at some point, when the majority changes, when the new president's elected, at some point, every single one of us is going to want to know an answer to a question from the administration or some other branch or element of government, and they're going to hold us off. They're going to give us the Heisman. They're going to stiff-arm us. And they're going to try to push us aside and not answer the question. And I would sure hope that at that moment, whether you agree with that person or not, that you would stand and defend their prerogative and their right as a representative of their state to get legitimate questions answered in a straightforward way. And so, as I said earlier today when I came to the floor, this issue is about this institution as much as anything else, about the right of every single member of this body to be able to ask legitimate questions of the administration or other branches of government and get a straightforward answer. And so I guess the question that I would have for the senator from Kentucky, the junior senator from Kentucky, that I'll ask here in just a moment, the question that I would have for the junior senator from Kentucky is, just to clarify, my understanding is that this issue could have been brought to a resolution quite a long time ago if the White House had either A, made their feelings well known in a statement. You can just put that out there in 30 seconds and it will be done. Just come out and say it, that it is unconstitutional to kill U.S. citizens that are non-combatants who are in the United States. That's one route. And the other thing that could have ended this is the unanimous consent motion that he made to have this body vote on a sense of the Senate, and that would have brought it to a vote. Is that accurate? Are those the options before us?